Remember this magical box that turned living rooms into theaters? Or the spinning card holder that was Facebook before the internet? Today, we take a look at 10 everyday objects of the past that have vanished. Video cassette recorders, or VCRs, were once a huge part of home entertainment. They worked by recording TV shows and movies onto tapes that you could watch later. This was really cool because it meant that you could watch your favorite shows whenever you wanted, a concept known as time shifting. VCRs could also play pre-recorded tapes, which were super popular in the 1980s and 90s. But as technology got better, DVDs and streaming services started to take over. By 2016, the last company making VCRs stopped production because most people were watching movies and shows in newer digital ways. Dial-up internet access was a popular way to connect to the internet using the public switch telephone network, the PSTN. It started in the 1980s and became widely available in the 1990s. Users would connect to the internet by dialing a phone number on a conventional telephone line. The connection was made through a modem, which converted digital data from a computer into audio signals and vice versa. Dial-up was known for its distinctive sounds and slow speeds, often only reaching 56 kilobits per second. As technology advanced, broadband connections like DSL and cable became more common, offering much faster speeds and making dial-up largely obsolete, especially in urban areas. Floppy disks were once a common way to store and transfer data for computers. They were small, square disks that could hold a limited amount of data. The first floppy disks were 8 inches in size, but later they became smaller, with 5¼ inch and then 3½ inch sizes becoming popular. These disks were used a lot in the 1980s and 90s, especially before hard drives became affordable for most people. However, as technology improved, floppy disks were replaced by things like USB flash drives, CDs, and online storage, which could hold much more data and transfer it faster. Today, floppy disks are mostly a memory, but they were very important in the history of computers. Pagers, also known as beepers, were a big deal before cell phones became popular. They were small devices that let you receive messages when someone wanted to contact you. People carrying pagers would get a beep or vibration to alert them of a message, and they would find a phone to call you back. Doctors and emergency workers used them a lot in the 1980s and 90s. Beepers would eventually receive a bad rap, as they were sometimes used for selling illegal substances. Now, with the rise of the smartphone era and texting, the use of pagers has declined. Cassette tapes, also known as audio cassettes, were a popular way to listen to music in the past. They were invented by a team led by Lou Ottens at the Dutch company Philips and released in 1963. Cassette tapes were small plastic cases with 2 mini spools inside, which held magnetic tape for recording sound. People liked them because they were portable, and you could record your own music mixes on them. In the 1970s and 80s, cassette tapes were very popular, especially after the invention of the Sony Walkman in 1979, which let people listen to music anywhere. However, with the arrival of CDs, MP3 players, and digital music, cassette tapes became less popular and are now mostly used by collectors or for special projects. The answering machine, a device used for answering telephone calls and recording messages, has a fascinating history. Invented in the 20th century, its earliest forms used magnetic recording, a technology invented in 1898 by Vladimir Poulsen. The first practical answering machine was developed in the 1930s by various inventors, including Clarence Hickman of Bell Laboratories. However, Bell kept Hickman's invention a secret, fearing it would lead to fewer phone calls. The first commercially successful answering machine, the electronic secretary, was introduced in 1949. Over time, answering machines became more affordable and widespread, especially after the restructuring of AT&T in 1984. Today, they are largely replaced by integrated voicemail systems and phones, but they played a critical role in the evolution of telephone communication. Personal digital assistants, or PDAs, were a big deal before smartphones took over. The first PDA was introduced in 1984 by a company called Scion, but the term PDA was first used in 1992 by Apple's CEO, referring to the Apple Newton. These devices were like small handheld computers that helped people manage their personal information. They had features like calendars, to-do lists, and address books. By the early 2000s, most PDAs could connect to the internet, and some even had touchscreens. However, when smartphones came along, they could do everything PDAs did and more, so PDAs became less popular and eventually obsolete. Yellow Pages were special phone directories that listed businesses by the type of service they offered, not just alphabetically. They started in 1883 when a printer in Cheyenne, Wyoming, ran out of white paper and used yellow paper for a phone directory. This idea caught on, and in 1886, the first official Yellow Pages directory was created. These books were really useful before the internet because you could find all sorts of businesses like plumbers or restaurants in your area. But now, with the internet and search engines, finding businesses is much easier online. So, the Yellow Pages aren't used much anymore, and many countries have stopped printing them, like the United Kingdom in 2019. The Cathode Ray Tube, or CRT, was a significant invention in the history of display technology, commonly found in old televisions and computer monitors. It worked by shooting electron beams at a phosphorescent screen, which then lit up to create images. This technology was first developed in the late 19th century, with the earliest version known as the Braun tube, invented by German physicist Ferdinand Braun in 1897. CRTs were bulky and heavy because they were made of thick glass and they required a lot of space. Over time, they were replaced by more modern technologies like LCD, plasma, and OLED displays, which are lighter, thinner, and more energy efficient. By the mid-2000s, CRTs had largely become obsolete, as flat panel displays took over due to their many advantages. The Rolodex, a rotating card file device, was a popular tool for storing contact information before the digital age. Invented in 1956 by Danish engineer Hildur Nielsen, it became a staple in offices around the world. The name Rolodex is a combination of rolling and index, and it was designed to make finding phone numbers and addresses quick and easy. Each card in the Rolodex could be written on or typed on, and the whole unit could spin to easily locate a specific card. By the 1980s, having a large Rolodex was seen as a sign of business connections and success. However, with the rise of digital contact lists on computers and smartphones, the Rolodex has become much less common, replaced by more modern technology. If you enjoyed this American Rewind video, go ahead and watch the next one. And remember to like and subscribe. It really helps a small channel.